Yeah, certain things that I think you should, that you can write in the contract are like services that you're promising, right? Like, hey, I'm paying for staging, I'm paying for photos or whatever it is. If you want to specify those, you certainly can. Like when you're selling like, the different packages that we do on listings, silver, gold, or platinum. If you want to write that in, you can. I don't usually write it. But you might have that one client who's like, I want to see that in writing, that you're paying for my inspections and my staging. Right. So if you need to, just do it. Even the other thing with like the risk-free or like easy out, right? Easy exit agreement. Also that too, like if a client is pressing you to write that in the contract, you can, but I usually don't write that in the contract. I more let them know like that's like more like my customer service satisfaction. If for some reason you want to cancel, we'll talk about it. We'll try to fix it. If not, like we're not going to hold you hostage. Because if a customer doesn't want to like move forward, like what are you going to do, right? Like if they're like stalemate, like, well, I'm not selling. I'm not letting you guys in the house, right? I'm not letting you guys come to the open house or whatever. Like, what are you going to do at that point, really, right? Do you even want to have that battle? Yeah, just move on.
Don't clash.
Yeah, don't clash, right? It could do more damage to your reputation than good, right? If they go leave you a bad review after that, it's because they're mad. Like that could do more damage than that one deal.
And I feel when you're in the listing appointment and you go through that risk-free and you just explain it, very detailed and what it is, it's not even a big deal.
Yeah.
For most clients. Of course, you're going to have maybe that one-off where they want to have it in writing or something, and you could just reassure them, I'm leaving this with you and it's here in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, we got Melissa on. Melissa, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
What up, Melissa?
Hi, everybody.
So, Melissa, I kind of already set the stage for you. Basically, we're going to go over the purchase agreement and the listing agreement. What I want to just also reiterate today, this is not necessarily a contract training, right? Where we're going like word for word, line by line over the agreements. What we want to do is more of an overview and kind of have you go through all the major things that we need to make sure we're not missing on the contract, right? So like how to fill it out effectively, things that you're noticing that are getting missed. So if you want to kind of go through each page, but just kind of get to the meat and potatoes, what I do also recommend is everybody needs to read the contract, right? Like that's something you got to do on your own. If you want to become an expert at contracts, you should be going through that thing with the magnifying glass and reading every single line and just trying to understand what all those things mean, right? This is more higher level overview of, hey, if I had 15 minutes to tell you what to look for in the purchase contract and what to make sure you don't skip, like this is that training, right? There is a contract training, guys, through EXP. They do them every other week. So if you want to jump on an EXP contract training with the broker of EXP, that's an in-depth, kind of page by page, line by line. There's also a car contract training that we get access to for free. And that's like a 2-hour training of the purchase agreement, listing agreement, stuff like that. And these are all on the tool page. The links to those are on the tools page.
So you mentioned the EXP training, right? For the EXP training, is it normally different? Like, let's say, like parts of the contract every week. Like, let's say they're going to explain, I don't know, like let's say one part is specifically cancellations. The other part's going to be like how the contract's set up. I don't know.
To my knowledge, it's just like an overview of contract training because EXP we bring on so many agents. The broker teaches a class. It's like every few weeks there's one class, right? And it's just going over the contract. It's not necessarily like one specific part, right? Yeah, it's not contract strategy or anything like that. It's more overview of the whole contract, teaching you the contract, right? So it's a great refresher, and it's definitely something that a newer agent should go through, or even our seasoned agents, right? Because the contract has changed. There's been so many recent iterations of the contract. I definitely think you guys should jump on there, right? So Melissa, we're gonna turn it over to you. Do you want to share, I guess, your screen, and you want to start with the purchase agreement first, and then we'll go through listing agreement?
Yeah. Just a second. Okay. Okay, everybody can see that. Okay,
Yep.
the first thing that I kind of wanted to bring up real quick, and I think that this tool will be helpful for you guys. So that way we're all in uniform, and it's a really quick adjustment that we can do. That way you're not having to input it every single time you do a contract. So right now I'm in Enrique's car. So up here, if you see the little, profile logo, if you click on that and you go to profile settings, it's going to bring you to a page looking like this. Up here at the top, there's a couple different tabs that you can click on. If you click on offices, here is where we can automatically change and put in the name of our brokerage, the address, your number. All of that information will get automatically populated into your listings or into your contracts when you're filling them out. So you don't have to worry about it anymore. So this is the way that there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can do it. This is their correct way that they would like to do it, is eXp Realty of California, Inc. They want their physical office address instead of the address that you guys are at, your guys' office, the eXp location. So we enter in all of this information into this area right here. So we have that all completed now. If we hit save, we go back to our transactions. Now, if we wanted to do, say, a new listing, it's going to input that information into there automatically. Well, we got to go in and change Enrique's DRN number. So that would be the only information that you would have to end up putting in. I know there's a section in the DR for the DRE. Once I figure that out, how we can automatically save that, I'll let you guys know as well. But if we can at least have the brokerage name as shown as appeared, that would be absolutely wonderful. The office would just absolutely love every single one of you guys. So would I. So
Melissa,
that's just,
really quick, before you jumped on, I did let them know that I confirmed with the compliance department that we can put just eXp Realty, and that's also compliant.
That's also acceptable as well. So instead of the of California Inc., but so you could do either way. So either way, that would be if you just go in there and you fill it in through your little profile information, it'll automatically just populate it. And then you're not having to worry about changing it every time or, oh, did I get it correctly? Whatever. So that's how you can move forward going with that. I think that will be easier. Easier for you guys moving forward. And that's just one less thing that you have to worry about. I did fill out some test listings, and well, if it doesn't want to come up. There we go. Okay, so I did fill out a couple listings, or a listing and a purchase contract. So the things that I'm mainly finding that we're getting flagged on with the office is, first of all, our name, which we did get clarification on that. Another item that is often missed is either the city or the county. We also want to make sure the APN number is always in there. These items are very important. If we don't get these items in here, we have to do a modification of terms on our listings to correct this information. So anytime there's a little fill-in spot, you just want to make sure that nothing is left blank. Try to fill everything out to the best of your capabilities. We want to always make sure we have the beginning date and an end date, the purchase price, and then obviously our compensation. Now, most of the time, we always, we negotiate our compensation. We don't necessarily, it could be negotiable for the sellers to pay the buyer's compensation. So if they're not willing to, or you're unsure, we can just leave that blank, but always make sure that you have your percentage on there. Now, if they are in agreement to a compensation, you can put that in there too. So that we'll just leave that like that. The next kind of things is items included. Now this gets missed a lot too. It used to be in a different place on the other listing agreement, but now it's, it's down here on the first page. It used to be like, I think on the second or third page. So if there's any items that are going to be included, say refrigerator, we want to put that in there. Washer, dryer, put that in there. It may be, they're not going to include the curtains and drapes. So those are going to be items excluded. We want to try to fill those out. So then that way there's no confusion moving forward when we're putting anything on the MLS or when it comes down to negotiations when we're receiving a purchase contract. Another thing that the listing agreement now does is smart home features, because, most houses are smart houses now, right? Like everything else. So for instance, if they have like maybe a Nest thermostat that's going to stay with the property, or a Ring doorbell, we want to put that in there. If they do have a Ring doorbell and that's not going to be staying, then we want to put it underneath exclusions. So that would just be for anything having to do with smart. We want to try to make sure those items are either showing included or excluded. Another item that is being missed is E1. Property will be marketed in the following as. We want to put whatever MLS. If it's going to be like on East Bay, we want to put that on there. If it's going to be MLS Listings Inc., we want to put that into that section. So that shows where we're going to be marketing their property on the MLS, whichever one it is going to be. Usually ours is MLS Listings Inc. Next is obviously if there's a timing of presentation of offers, if there's a specific date that you're going to the sellers want them to be presented and reviewed on, we will put that in here because sometimes that is the case. If not, leave it blank. For investigation reports, we're always gonna have an NHD. We may not have these items. We're always going to have an NHD and preliminary title report, right? Those are automatically come with the property. If there's going to be an HOA, or if there is an HOA in the property, we want to check the HOA documents. If the sellers are deciding they're going to go ahead and order any kind of inspection report, a pest, property, roof, pool, we want to put those in there as well. Now, sometimes, depending on the county, or the city, actually, there has to be a sewer lateral inspection. I did give Andrea a list of that. I'm happy to share that with you. It's kind of like a little cheat sheet tool it's a list of all the cities, and it'll tell you if a sewer lateral certificate is required for that city or not. You just kind of want to make sure that if there is a requirement for a sewer lateral, that you want to check that box, because you want the sellers to be aware of that. That most of the time, unless otherwise negotiated, the sewer lateral has to be paid by the seller. So we don't want that to be like a surprise cost on their end. So you would make sure you want to do that. And if they wanted any other reports, you just check off whatever reports they're willing to provide to the buyers. Okay. Moving down, this broker compensation advisory, that's always going to be checked now for the listing agreements. And it'll be inside with the listing disclosure package. Just moving forward, everything else on this, that's pretty much it that you need to realize or be aware of for the listing. You just want to double check and make sure that the last page of the listing itself with the seller's information has, try to fill out this information as best as you can to your capability. Most of the time, you're already going to know their email address, their phone number. So go ahead and fill that out as well. Make sure, just do a quick little review and make sure everything for your office and yourself looks correct. Any questions? Listing is pretty simple.
Second agent would go, I'm assuming below my name, right?
Yes. So if we had a second, like if there was two of you guys presenting, then we would go ahead and do the second agent. So let's just say Blanca was going to be being the second agent. We're going to go ahead and fill out all of her information. And then at the same time, if there is two of you representing from the same office, you want to check this box down here. More than one agent from the same firm represents the seller. Then the additional agent acknowledgement should get added onto there. So then it'll already go in and to the documents. Let's see. Yep. So it'll be the last page. Then when we're doing this, you just want to fill it out. Most of the time, click down, seller will already be in there. We're working with the landlord. Then we want to put EXP Realty. Most of the time it'll already populate. Sorry, just have it. There we go. So fill in, then Enrique's name would go here. Blanca would be here. Put in their DRE numbers. Now only one person. Now because I already created a contract to go with it, it automatically just populated it. But most of these times the buyer's name won't be in here because we're just doing the listing, right? So that all of that would not be included.
Yeah, so listings are pretty easy, pretty straightforward, right? Easier than the purchase.
If you just take your time, like no rush, and just try to fill it out, make sure, all your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, the names are spelled correctly. A good example too, also, now this could go either way with a listing or a deal in contract, or when you're writing a contract. Now, Mauricio ran into this deal and was asking how should he do this because they had three, this was actually for a contract, but they had three buyers and two of the buyers' names were really long. Like one had literally five names to it. And he's like, Melissa, this won't all fit. What am I supposed to do? Okay, well, in that example, huh?
Were they Mexican?
No comment.
Those are my peeps. They got three last names.
Yeah. So he was like, what do I do here, Melissa? And so I said, just put whatever their first name is, and forget all of the other four names. So if it was Maria, the last name was Gonzalez, you just put Maria Gonzalez. Forget the rest of it. Then we're going to do an addendum and we're going to put sellers' names or buyers' names to reflect as number one, the full name of the first buyer. Number two, full name of the second buyer. Number three, full name of the third buyer. Then that way there's no confusion when it comes to escrow or a lender making sure that, their full name isn't on there. Well, now we have this addendum correcting it, right?
Got it.
So that would fall for either a listing or for a deal in contract, either way.
It's always better to have an addendum to fix.
Right. If the names won't all fit in there.
Okay. Any questions, guys? Now it's time to ask questions. Richa, what do you got?
Just go to the last page, last line where it says DRE license number. The first one was Enrique's and the second one was for the EXP or opposite?
The opposite. So it's going to go, here's the real estate broker. So right now, real estate broker, we're filling out the real estate broker's information. Here's our brokerage name. Here's the DRE number for our broker. Then it's going to move down forward to the bottom. And now this is going to be our agent. So this is the broker firm information, the broker DRE number. Now here's our agent information. So our agent is going to be Enrique. Then his DRE number would go here.
Okay.
That's going to be the case anytime, even when filling out a contract. It's always
Mhm.
going to be the broker's number first and then your DRE number on the second line.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Questions, guys? Feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself, ask some questions.
Just wanted to know the fax number for EXP2.
The tax number?
The fax number, it was on the first page where we were populating all the information for the
Oh, fax number. Yeah, I don't know if we have that off the top of our head. I never include that. You could probably just Google it. If you just Google EXP Realty fax number, it'll probably pull up this address to their office. It'll pull up all that info. It should be on there.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw it on the first page that Melissa was showing.
Did you have it on there, Melissa?
Not on this one.
That might have been our personal.
Auto-populated office information, not here.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. So that would have been on the, when I was
Yeah.
showing on your profile. So you can automatically fill that information in.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can look that up and get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing too is even just from a strategy point, when you're trying to get these signed, explaining like the first page, right? Like when I'm trying to get the seller to sign my listing agreement, I start asking them, hey, is there anything you want to exclude from the listing? Is there anything that's included, right? I'm already just getting them into like, okay, we're moving forward with this thing. And so it's good to know how this is. And hey, can you guys verify your name spelled right? Hey, can you verify the property address? This is the price we talked about. This is the commission we talked about. You're keeping the washer, right? And then it just gets them like moving forward with, all right, we're taking these next steps, right? So it's a soft way to just kind of move them forward.
Yeah. And also too, on the first page, if there is solar panels or an alarm system, you know, mainly where we're at, the propane tanks and doesn't really apply, but we definitely want to check those if they do apply. So like I said,
I'm sorry, if you're checking solar panels, guys, if they have solar panels, it's extremely crucial that you find out if they own those solar panels,
right,
or if they lease them, if it's transferable. Correct. You need to get all that information up front before you move forward with that property.
Yeah, because if it's leased, yeah, sorry, Enrique. If it's leased, then obviously we wouldn't, or if it's owned, then we're not going to check because this is the leased items area. But most of the time they're not owned, they are leased. So if it's leased, check it.
Yeah, but that does change the parameters of the sale because the buyer would have to inherit that, right? And so it's important. Like I've seen deals go sideways because that wasn't caught. And then at the end, we're trying to move forward. And then the buyer thought the solar was paid off. And then we find out there's a lease or the seller still owes, 20 grand on it. So definitely if there's solar, you need to know that information up front. Do you own it? Is it leased? Right? How much do you owe? All those different things, right? Get that information up front.
Right. Yeah. And then eventually when that does come, just kind of, I mean, it's not like something you have to get immediately from then at the listing presentation, but then if, just letting them know, hey, since you do have solar panels, we will need a copy of the contract or any kind of corresponding documents that you may be able to provide. That way we can provide that information to the buyer or any potential buyers as well. If it is leased, then we are going to need a copy of the contract because the buyers are going to need to transfer it over into their names.
Yeah. If it's owned, there's no issue, right? If it's owned, you're good. It's only when they owe money on it or if it's leased, then that we need to figure out how we're going to address that, right? And most of the time, if they owe money on it still, the seller's going to have to pay that thing off at close of escrow. All right. So just know that needs to be factored into the equation, into their net sheet too. Any more questions, guys, on listing agreement? Yes, you can still use the EXP listing agreement. Yeah. So if you want to use the EXP listing agreement, you can. It's a shorter version. It is acceptable by EXP, but I definitely think you should also know how to use the car form one, right? There's pros and cons to the EXP one, right? The pro is that it's short and it's easier to explain. The con is that it's not in win forms, and all the signatures and stuff and entry, you have to do that manually, right? So the last few listings that I've signed, I went to just the one in win forms so that I can just have it all DocuSign, all my templates already in there. It saved me time, even though the contract is longer, right? You have a question?
Well, not a question. And I think too, when you share that EXP contract to the, when you're submitting an offer, wait, is this for listing?
Listing.
Oh, no, no.
You don't need to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of leaning on the side now. Use the win form listing agreement. In the beginning, when this was all new, it was easier to explain the shorter one. But now that this is normal now, like, you know, the commission stuff and everything, just go with the win form one, guys. Everyone knows like commissions are separate now. Right. Okay, let's roll. Melissa, let's go to purchase agreement.
Okay. All right. So for, like I said, the main part, everything's always filled out. We want to make sure these buyer, if we're representing the buyer, both buyer boxes are checked. Date prepared, make sure everything is always, like I said, nothing is missing, because this always ends up being the case, is we're missing usually the county, the city, or APN number. Make sure that both, you know, like this is Enrique. So obviously we would have to change this if it was somebody else, a different company. We would want to make sure that they're correct. The broker's DRE license is in there, and that, as well as the their correct DRE license is there. All of this should be filled out. Nothing should be left blank. Now, in the case that this is kind of tricky, but normally if this was going to be a different company, it wouldn't be both the same boxes checked, right? Because the seller's broker is going to represent the seller, buyer's broker is going to represent the buyer. Now, the only difference is, say, if this Enrique wasn't the listing agent and the buyer's agent, say, you know, it was somebody from Coldwell Banker, that's them, right? But say if it was EXP up here as well. Now, because we're with the same brokerage, even though one agent is, say if we had Blanca on here, or, you know, a different EXP agent, it's not going to be this one is representing the seller, this one's representing the buyer. It's going to be both, regardless, even if you're not from the same office. If you are both from EXP Realty of California, you're both from the same brokerage. So you're both representing like as a dual agency, kind of. Does that make sense?
Because broker represents buyer and seller, even though it's two different agents, same brokerage representing them, right? So you still got to select both buyer and seller.
Yeah. The only time it would be different is if, like I said, there was a different company up here. It's like Coldwell Banker or, you know, Compass, whatever. But that's important. We make sure that we get these boxes checked accordingly. Now, filling out other things, this is all on discretion, whatever that, you know, you and your buyers want to do and feel like the sellers would be acceptance of the contract, you fill that out accordingly. It's not a big deal for the office, but I do know that sometimes it's a big deal for certain listing agents to have this percentage in here of what their rate for their loan is going to be. So, like I said, anything we can try to fill out as much as possible, that would be great. Obviously, if they're having a FHA or a VA loan, we want to check whichever one those are. That's pretty much it for that. Now, like I said, if you go in and you fill out that information, you're not going to really have to worry about your company name anymore. So you're going to be good there. You just got to make sure you have the correct information from the listing agent. Now I can't toggle back and forth, but the listing agent, you guys know where to get that information from?
MLS.
Correct. Enrique, you're not supposed to answer. Give somebody else a chance.
Sorry.
We're doing a quiz. We know you know the answer. Yes, MLS.
Oh,
MLS.
sure.
Yeah, MLS up at the top. They'll have the agent's name. I could show you after we get out of here. But it'll have the agent's name. Page 2 at the bottom will have the agent's name and their DRE number. Directly below that will be their listing office information, the exact name that their company, that their broker's name is. Right underneath it will be their broker's DRE number. So that's like a little quick, like, oh, where do I get this information? Well, that it gives it to you right there on the MLS. Good little tidbit for you. Just, learn how to work the system and work the docs, and you guys will be great. Obviously, if you're going to negotiate for the seller to pay your guys' compensation, you want to make sure that's completed.
Go back to the top, Melissa. To the top of
Yeah.
that page, credit to buyer, right? I think it's important to distinguish that.
Yes, if you want to credit towards closing cost or a buy down rate, something like that, that would be put in right there.
So those are different, just so you guys know, that those are two separate items from commission versus credit towards closing costs, right? So they have to be in two different spots. So you can ask for a $10,000 credit, and then you can also ask for 2.5% commission, right? You
Right.
just need to
And it's-
specify two things.
Right. And it does say right there. So seller credit to buyer, say if they were going to do 10,000. And then right underneath it, it says additional seller credit terms does not include buyer broker compensation. So what is it going to be for? Towards closing costs or whatever it is. Usually that's what it is. Something about that line. You can barely see
Yeah.
that, but
Or towards
Yeah.
rate buy down, right? It could be towards
Right, or
rate
towards-
buy down.
right.
So you can
And then the
specify.
next section would be for wherever, check the box. And then this is where your compensation would be. So the first box is if there's any credits that you're going to ask for the seller to pay towards the buyers at close of escrow. The second box is going to be the negotiation for your guys's compensation or commission. We're not supposed to use commission no more, compensation. Verification of loan application. This doesn't always get checked, but sometimes there's a pre-qual. If they're having a loan, you're going to get pre-approval or pre-qual. Usually it's a pre-approval. So check that box. Now, going down into the contingencies. Normally all contingencies you see right here is 17 days. Now, all of this can be negotiated. A lot of the time what happens too is you have to read this because the ones that we normally only really do is usually loan appraisal and investigation, right? Well, we're automatically going to get seller disclosures. Those are the seller documents. We're going to get a copy of the preliminary title report. If there's HOA, we're going to get HOA docs. Now, sometimes all of these items are not provided to us up front, and maybe the seller's still completing them or whatnot. Sometimes they are provided to us, but we want to make sure that if they're not provided to us, like if we're going to ask for a 14 days for our property investigation to be removed, I would highly recommend we do it for the seller disclosures. So the review of the seller disclosures, preliminary title report. If there's an HOA, put that in there. Same. You want it to be anything having to do underneath L3, this entire box right here. I would try to keep the same. Insurance is usually whatever the loan or appraisal is. So if we're all going with a 14-day, we're going to put 14 days all across the board. Why? Because if for some reason it says or 5 days after delivery, Now, the 5 days after delivery, guess what? That means that's a contingency removal. If we just left it blank, 17 days or 5 days after delivery. 5 days after delivery, that contingency would be removed. I don't see a lot of people being really picky about that right now, but I do see some people on the other side being very picky about it. So say, you know, oh, well, you didn't put this in for, you know, like normally we would do the seller disclosures, the preliminary title report, the HOA documents, property inspection, any kind of reports. We used to always tie that underneath the investigation of property. Well, now they made all of these different little sections. And after 5 days of delivery, or 17 days or 5 days after delivery, they can come at us. So even if this is at 17 days, technically, we would still have 17 days. Even though we had the investigation at 14, we would still have 17 days for our review of the disclosures, for the preliminary title report. It just kind of makes it cleaner. Like, let's just keep it clean, all to the point. Yeah. And Enrique, you have anything to comment on that?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is if you're going to ask for an investigation contingency, it's probably wise to make sure the other documents stuff is matching up to those days, right? Because sometimes they have the documents available, sometimes they don't. If they have them available, then I don't think it's a big deal to just leave the investigation and leave the other ones just kind of standard. But if they haven't given them to you, the clock's going to start from when they give them to you, right? So it's just knowing if they have them available or not, right? Sometimes we see like there's cases where they don't have them available, right? And it takes them like 5 days to get you the disclosures. But now you're 5 days into your investigation contingency, right? And so by you making those all line up, you're kind of protecting yourself saying, hey, I have 14 days. It's just making all the timelines match up. That's basically what it is.
Any questions?
Now, the other thing to note too here, guys, we're getting a little like in the weeds a little bit, but I think it's important, is if they piecemeal you stuff, you get another 5 days from when they sent that document, right? So let's say like they give you the prelim, but then they don't give you the TDS or something for 3 more days. Well, you get 5 days after that TDS was given to you, right? That's for the last document was given to you. So that's why it's important, even for us when we're listing property, that we have all the disclosures at one time and we hand over a full packet. That's why Melissa is so adamant, like, hey, I need this sign, so we can deliver a complete package, right? So now they don't have that leg up on us, right? So we can use that in our favor when we're on the buyer side, but we don't want someone using that against us when we're on the listing side, right? So complete packages are always better.
Right. And it is like, yeah, like, and when you do have a complete package, that gives you wiggle room for negotiations. Like, hey, everything's been provided up to you. You had a chance to review it. Your clients have had a chance to review it. We want you to remove your full investigation of the property. So that would include all these investigations. So the only thing that would be left open would be the loan or appraisal if there was one. But having a full completed disclosure package, including everything, it just gives you a leg up. It could give you some room to negotiate and be like, hey, we want this contingency removed.
Yeah. I've seen people now where, sorry, Melissa, I see people now where they're just putting a contingency on the insurance part of it, right? Because of all the issues that have been going on with insurance and insurance being expensive or certain providers not wanting to give insurance. They're removing everything else and they're just putting like 10 days to make sure we can get insurance or make sure we can get affordable insurance, right? So you can even just be specific on one type of document, right? Let's say you want to remove all investigation, but you only want to put a contingency on the HOA docs, right? You can do that. So that's why they kind of broke them down into like individual sections.
So how would we do that for the HOA docs? Because I'm writing off of today.
Right there, common interest disclosures right here. L7.
And then you could put like 10, 15.
Yeah, let's say like they don't have the HOA docs yet. And you know, like maybe you know something. Maybe there was a lawsuit, litigation or something, and that might be a deal killer. So you might want to have a contingency just on the HOA part of it. Or the HOA and the financing part, right? And then Melissa, the box on the right, the removal or waiver of contingency. So if you check that one on the right, that removes all of that section, right?
Mm-hmm. It wouldn't remove the insurance. See how that still stayed in there?
Oh yeah.
So we could either take that out, or like you said, if you wanted to just make sure, put 10 days in there. But this would be for anything that would be provided in a disclosure package. A full seller disclosures, that would include an NHD report, a preliminary title report, HOA documents if they apply, and then as well if the sellers are going to provide like a pest, property, roof, pool inspection, any of those.
Got it.
That's your typical investigation of the property, is all of the seller disclosures and all of the reports.
Okay. let's
You
move
would think
forward.
they should move this insurance up underneath this section, but hey, maybe they'll get there. Okay, time of possession. Everything is going to be on the same day of closing, that unless otherwise negotiated, it'll be at 6 p.m. Or if there's a different time, then you could say you wanted it to be done sooner. Like, we know we're going to record in the morning. Well, we want to have possession of the property by noon. You could always change that. Just kind of depends. These are kind of just standard things. Seller delivery of documents. Technically, if it's not provided up front in a disclosure link, the seller does have 7 days. So you might want to really consider that when, say, if, I'm going to check that box, but say if you put 7 days in for, your investigation of property, which would include, the disclosures and everything. But if they have 7 days to get it to us, well, that means we get on the 7th day, if we get the disclosures, your buyers are gonna, and you are gonna need to review those disclosures same day. And then on that 7th day, we're also going to have to remove that contingency because you put up here 7 days. So that's just, if say, they don't have the disclosures available, I would try to give you and your clients a little bit of wiggle room. So if they know 7 days we're supposed to have it, say, okay, we want at least 3 days to review our documents. So I'm going to put 10 days here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you could put the pressure on them to give you documents in a certain amount of days. It's 7 by default, but if you're like, hey, I need all the disclosures within 3 days.
Yeah. Yep. You can put that there too. 3 days, 5 days, whatever. So if not, they have 7 days to get that to us.
Okay. And guys, if this is a little bit over your head, anybody watching, run this by a senior agent, run it by me right now. Maybe we'll just skip forward, Melissa, just kind of what stuff is commonly missed. Because I know we can go a lot into the weeds on like strategy and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. So yeah, then the only other sections would be anything that is to be included. Just make sure those are all checked appropriately. Sometimes, you check the refrigerator on the MLS. It'll tell you if there is actually a refrigerator or a washer and dryer. Or you could always reach out to the listing agent and say, hey, I didn't notice if this was on the MLS. I just wanted to confirm, is there a refrigerator and washer dryer included? Just make sure anything that is included that you want to be stayed at the home, make sure that's included. If you do not see it on this list, that's why they have these additional boxes, and then write in whatever it is. That way everything's clear. No questions about, oh, well, you didn't put this in your contract, so we're going to take it. Another thing would be who pays for what. Seller is always to pay for the NHD report. So always click seller and always click the environmental, because it's part of the contract. It's part of the contract that they should provide that, but without that being checked, there is a report that you can miss, that doesn't provide the environmental, but it is your job as the buyer's agent to make sure that a copy is provided the environmental report is also provided. It's just it's just a way of agents being cheaper to get their clients not to have to pay for a full report. So if you put that in there, most of the reports nowadays always has the environmental, but it's just another way for you to double check yourself. If you happen to know who is providing it, put that in there. It's not necessary, but it's always a good thing. There is a wildfire disclosure report. In the NHD report, it will tell you if the property is located in a fire hazard zone. If it is, I would highly recommend San Jose County, or anywhere in San Jose, Santa Clara County. A lot of those places, unless you're going up further north, you don't have to worry about it. It really doesn't apply to us. I think some places in Oakland do, though. But then if you don't check this and they are in a fire hazard zone, you're going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Check the seller to pay for it. They should pay for it. So I would definitely, now, and this may not always apply. So obviously if we don't have an NHD report to review, how would we know that? Well, we wouldn't know. So then that one maybe have to be after the fact, be negotiated down the line. But if you do know that there is, it's in a wildfire hazard area. There we go. Then I would suggest the seller to pay for that, because there will be an inspection that it's required by law for that to be done before we close escrow. Make sure just obviously smoke alarm and water heater, all that's seller. Usually government points of requirements not done. Yeah, it just kind of depends. But these things you guys are good with. I think the only last thing that I need to really bring up is our home warranty. If we're going to do a home warranty, we should usually seller pays for it. If not the buyer, whoever. Make sure you put in a cost. We do have the brochures too. I can definitely hand those out, but they have gone up in the past year. So you want to maybe give your buyer a little extra wiggle room and add a little bit more just in case. That way they're not having to come out of their pocket to pay for the difference. Because I do have one deal where it was only $350, but the lowest, and that wasn't even including the AC or anything like that. There was no AC on the property, but the lowest plan that they had, I believe, was like $425. So either your buyer's going to pick up that cost for that difference, or you can be generous and pay for it yourself.
Yeah, we do tell the buyers that we're going to negotiate the home warranty for them. If not, that's something that we'll pay for. So guys, just do yourself a favor and get the seller to pay for it and put a higher amount so that it is like a full coverage policy and it covers. If not, and then you're going to end up having to pay the difference, or we're going to take the hit for the difference if you promise them something, right? But yeah, so just double check. Make sure you cover yourself by putting a little bit more. Richa, you had a question?
Is it the 13-month or is it the Fidelity home warranty will cover for 12 months? What is that 13-month?
The CRES plan will cover for 13 months now with Fidelity home warranty.
Okay.
So Fidelity is our preferred company that we use. Right? Fidelity, right?
Right, correct.
Margaret, right?
Yeah.
So
Fidelity,
Margaret,
and then it's the CRES option. CRES.
Yeah, they're the company we've been using for many, many years. And so Margaret, she's awesome. And then they have a special product where it's a 13-month one, and it's additional coverage. It's a lot better for the buyer. So yes, I would select that one if I were you.
And
yes,
I have a question on Q8.
Q8. Uh-huh.
Is the escrow fee covered by sellers or both?
That's all going to be based off the particular county, whatever's customary. So if you just Google who pays what, you'll use the title rep. They have a sheet and it tells you every single county and city is going to tell you, okay, seller pays or buyer pays. So you always want to double check that. but it is negotiable. Just FYI, it is negotiable. There's what's customary, and then there's also what's negotiable, right?
Okay.
So sometimes when you have like an agent who's out of the area, I've seen them like make the mistake where they're used to buyers paying for it, and then they're making an offer on my property and they're putting buyer pays escrow and title. And in our county, seller pays for it. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna say nothing. they just put $3 grand more on their buyer's closing costs, right? Because they didn't know the county. So it's up to you to make sure you're looking that up and putting, using that as negotiation.
Thank you.
But contact me if you need help. I can help you on that.
Yeah, and then otherwise, I think that's it, because pretty much going through the rest of it, yeah, those are our main fill out areas. And like I said, if you just
Shree
go
asked-
in,
Sorry,
Huh?
Melissa. Shree asked about the cost of that warranty. It is going to be based off the property. So the bigger the property, it's going to be more. So if you have a larger property, like you have a 3,000 square foot property, I would probably contact Margaret and say, hey, how much is it? Right? For like a standard, 1,500 square foot, it's probably somewhere in that range. But if it's a much bigger property, it's probably going to be a little more expensive for the home warranty.
I have a copy of the brochure, Enrique. I can blast it out to everybody so they have a copy of the most recent brochure, and it'll basically list, if it's a condo, and there's two different columns, a condo and residential, and then it'll go down. Is there AC? Is there not AC? And it'll give you a breakdown, and then it'll kind of at least give you an idea too. But yes, you can always reach out to Margaret. She's really great. She's very helpful. She does get back to you really quickly as well.
Yeah. If there's a pool, for example, and you want the pool equipment covered and stuff like that, you're going to want to make sure that particular plan or the pricing covers that stuff too. So it's good to get in touch with Margaret and just kind of see, all right, what's the best package, and negotiate that. Because then you're doing a good job for your buyer, right? You're getting them the best warranty plan.
And I did see your message, Rika. I will go ahead and I'll send the brochure, and I'll give you guys Margaret's contact information as well, her email and her phone number. So that way you guys have it.
Cool, guys. Melissa, anything else? I know we're up on time right now.
Nope, that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Any final questions, guys? Okay, so I guess in summary, I mean, I think the best way to put this is something where the more you do this, the more you're going to learn it, right? So the purpose of the training was to kind of give you a high-level overview, point out some specifics that we see commonly missed. But a lot of it, guys, if you just read it, it's common sense, right? You just need to take the time to read it. And if you don't know, then just ask somebody, right? Ask one of the senior agents, ask somebody in our leadership team, text me, call me. The other thing too is a lot of agents take me up on this is they'll write an offer and then they'll just email it to me. Hey, Enrique, can you just double check this? Like that's really, really valuable, right? Because sometimes I find stuff. I'm like, hey, did you mean to put this, right? Or what did you mean by that? Or, hey, maybe you should do this instead, which will be better for you when you're negotiating. So definitely run it by someone, and just have them double check it. It takes me 2 minutes to double check it. Or you could even text it to me. Sometimes you'll just copy the PDF and just text it to me. I'll look it on my phone. I'll say, hey, looks good. Send it out, right? And that's how you're going to learn. Take some time, guys, to go in there, update your profiles like Melissa said, right? Make it easier on yourself. Have all the profile updated with all the correct information. And then just make sure you're getting the second pair of eyes when you are going to write an offer or sign a listing too. Let's give it up for Melissa, guys. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure.
All righty, guys. We'll see you soon. Let me know if you have any questions, if you need anything.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.